One thing that came out the weekend, and this is sort of kicking on from last week, is James Garner's future.
Oh, yeah.
Which has been discussed because obviously he's out of contract in the summer. Everton.
There is an option.
There is an option, which Everton will obviously exercise. But Everton are apparently speaking to his advisors anyway at the moment. He's been linked with moves to Newcastle, Forest, again. Aston Villa are one of them. So, how important is James Garner to Everton, in your opinion?
I think he's worth another contract, of course. And I think, Everton will... This'll all be agents, I'm sure of it, trying to get him the best deal possible. To me, it's just what that contract looks like and where Everton want to go. And the value they put on him is obviously will be reflected in the contract. But if Everton want to push on, how important will James Garner become? And I suppose that's the real answer, isn't it? I think right now, obviously, his versatility is huge, and he's on. He'll play every single week. But it's whether you want to move past James Garner. I do believe he should get a new contract, but it's just the value of that contract. Does he become one of the highest earners? Does he double his money and put him in around like what an average Premier League player is on? Then I'm all right with that. I think for the most part, it's just about Everton controlling the narrative and making sure that he's tied down. And if they decide that they want to sell him and they have no problem selling him, then that happens on our terms. So I'm all for him getting a new contract. I just don't think he should become like one of the highest earners or anything like that, because I do believe we should be looking to go past this level in the next few years.
I mean, one thing I'd say is he's had a really good season so far. He's definitely gone up a level. I think since David Moyes coming, he's really gone up a level, to be fair. Because he had some really good performances last season as well. The question will be, I mean, we got him for £9 million, which is a really good bit of business, to be fair. He's been hugely important to us because he's played left back, right back, centre mid. It's whether or not he becomes a mainstay in the centre midfield, or whether Everton can get better, or David Moyes thinks Everton can be better. The fact we're talking him at right back at the moment means that, in my opinion, he hasn't totally nailed down that midfield bit where you go, we can't move him.
Yeah, there's no way.
Do you know what I mean? Because he is good at right back. He's a good player. He's good all round. So, good footballer. Definitely, for me, we should give him a new contract. We definitely should be keeping him because he can do that job. And then it's up to him to keep improving. Will Everton still be looking for midfield players who are better than James Garner right now? Probably. Because that's what you have to do. You have to look and go, can we get better than that? And then it's up to James Garner then to try to match the level of the player you bring in. But he's done really, really well this season. And like you said, since Moyes come in. But right now we are sort of saying we want him at right back because he's arguably our best right back. I mean, there's a share just over your left shoulder, which with a fella who's had 2 really good performances for Ireland over the weekend, who might sort of come back into the thinking. But right now, I think James Garner, seemingly, if you take the last game, is the first choice right back at the moment. And does that say more about the Everton team, or does it say more about the fact that, like we've just said, David Moyes doesn't think he's irremovable in the centre of the park? What do you think that is?
I think we've just got loads of options in midfield, haven't we? And next season we'll have Harrison Armstrong as well. And I just don't think, what I would say is, saying with our midfield is, there's not like many specialists. And that's where it becomes interesting. Can you mould a couple of those players into something a little bit different? Obviously, Idrissa Gana Gueye, no one really can do what he does. And Carlos Alcaraz plays in more of a number 10 role. But everybody else, I think, can be used in similar ways to each other. And that gives us the versatility. Harrison Armstrong, what's he going to be? Well, he's probably going to be an 8 as well. So I think let's not go let's not get ahead of ourselves in terms of like I said lots of times. I think James Garner's at the biggest club he's ever going to play for, and I think it's up to him to put himself in a place where he's playing week in and week out. And I think if that's the case, then Everton have to give him a contract. As I said, you know, his versatility is the key for me, that he can play in loads of different positions. But let's not like talk him up like he's some kind of world beater either, because he's not. The talk about him playing for England, I think, is just ridiculous in my opinion. When you look at the talent that plays for England, I just don't think he's anywhere near that kind of level. Anywhere near that level.
Elliot Anderson.
Oh, he's miles better than him. He's got loads of energy. Gets around the pitch. He's miles better because he's a young lad.
Dan Burn.
Dan Burns a centre back though. That's the difference.
See, I think that then days are gone where you go, he can't play for it. When I look at some of the players playing for England, I'm just like, yeah, you've got nowhere near that squad.
Who would he get ahead of in the England team?
I'm not saying. And what I'm saying is, Elliot Anderson, Newcastle let him go because they weren't bothered. Yeah. Very much like Irabunum. With Villa, it was like, well, he can go because he'll get us some money. If he'd have been as good a talent as people think he is, Newcastle weren't letting him out the door. But they did. But he's done really well at Forest, and he's deserved this go because he's playing really well. I wouldn't say never for James Garner. I wouldn't say he can't play for England.
Oh, I would. But that's okay. He's 25.
That's okay. I wouldn't say that because I think people do get the go. Do I think he'll get in England squad regularly? No, probably not. Because like I said, he's not like Everton's number one midfield player. But he's a very good player. If he carries on performing at a high level, he'll get looked at because loads of players do. Loads of players get in.
I don't think
Gerald Quansah gets in.
I don't think he's anywhere near the level.
Gerald Quansah gets in an England squad.
But that's defensive. Maybe if he became a solid right back and played all the time at right back, then maybe we'd get in. Midfield, no chance. There's just so many. He doesn't dominate games enough. He doesn't get round the pitch enough. He's not busy enough for me to be anywhere near. Maybe him and Kieran Dewsbury Hall should just go and play for Ireland, because I think they'd have a great chance of playing international football. I
don't know whether James Garner can play for Ireland. You can't just decide to play for that.
Sometimes you can. Tony Cascarino did.
Tony Cascarino did.
So, but I think he's a really solid Premier League player. Give him decent wages to reflect that he plays in the Premier League week in and week out. You know, he's got 18 months left if we obviously extend the contract. Well, of course they will, because it keeps the control. Yeah. So I don't think anyone at Everton is panicking. Maybe the agent is looking at it and thinking, well, they've already give Pickford this contract and they've done a couple of other, let's get this moved along as quickly as possible. But Everton will look at it and go, well, we're not in any hurry. But what Everton can't afford to do is let him go out the door for free. And that's the same with Michalenko. Can't afford to let these players go out the door for free. You've got to control the narrative. So give them a contract that reflects the fact that they're playing week in and week out in the Premier League. And we go from there. And that's just how you build a squad. That's just how you build a squad. And then you don't come to a situation where you're looking at it and going, oh, he can be free, he can talk. It's the same with, but then it's the same with like Beto, isn't it? Beto at the end of the season will have 1 year left on his contract, so Everton have to sell him because you can't give him a new contract.
Because that's 28 and a half.
That would be that would be ridiculous. You can't do that. You can't get into this position anymore. It's into those positions anymore for me anyway. So, but as I said, yeah, just get him, give him a contract, and listen. Then if Everton decide a club come in for him and like the money's good, and you're like, Sam, we'll let you go because we're going to get this player, or we've got this young player and that young player, and we're teeing in the squad.
He's played 97 times for Everton, scored 3 goals and got 5 assists, and he's picked up 20 yellow cards in that time, and he's on 4 bookings. I didn't realise that he's on 4 bookings at the moment. So if he was to get booked at Old Trafford, he'd be suspended, wouldn't he? So, got to be careful that way. But yeah, I mean, listen, we paid, like I said, 9 million quid. I think it's a really good bit of business from Everton, because if they were to sell him, you're tripling that at least, aren't you, at the moment in today's market? So, that's good. But yeah, he deserves a new contract. But like you say, I think Everton, with having the option, I think Everton will be quite calm about the whole thing. and then try and get them to commit a bit longer term. And if they feel like the agent's asking for too much, whatever, then they might think about letting them go. But it'd be for if they exercise the option, which is on them, and then maybe sell them. Yeah. But I think both parties will come to an agreement. Don't think James Garner will want to go anywhere. He's playing regularly for Everton. There's obviously, we're on a different path now with the new ownership, and he's it's up to him to keep improving. He's done really well this season, playing really well. So hopefully he'll keep getting better, and he'll get it done. He'll get it done and stay. So let me know, what do you think? What do you think regarding James Garner? Let us know. And hopefully it'll get sorted, because Mykolenko, like you said, Mykolenko's another one. That's another. I know he's sort of confirmed that his people are talking to our people with regards to it. But yeah, you just want these out the way, don't you? So that it's done, and you just
don't want a repeat of what we had last summer, which I think what happened last summer is not held us back as such, but if you lose players, then you've got to replace players, haven't you? And then that becomes a case of, you can't build a squad if you're just replacing players. You want to build on top of what you've got and control. And that's the summer just gone. We didn't have any control because it was just, and I think that's where we have to move forward. And if you're going to excel, if a player's going to leave, they can't be leaving on for free anymore. You know, you look at the list of players who've left on frees in the last 5 years. It's that money walking out the door is scandalous. Absolutely scandalous.
Well, that's put the club in a position that it's in.
Yeah.
Hasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, if Everton had recouped even half that money, it'd have been in a far healthier state than what it has been. And, getting players in, giving them big money and letting them just get off for nothing is that can not possibly be a way that you do business, and that's what I think Everton are trying to solve that issue, I guess. And we'll see where we go. There are a lot of people saying, he's very important. Versatility is important. Crimson VRS says James Garner or Jimmy Gardner. That's what he says. So we'll see. Matt Sumner says, I think he's a very underrated player, and I do believe he'll only get better. Crimson says, Garner's a solid Premier League player, mid-20s. Yeah. So we'll come back to the other conversations here. Sam Bank Blue says, James Garner is our new Ashley Young. He can play in a few different places and helps us paper over cracks in our weak squad. Ben Zuki says, I don't think Moyes will be letting Garner go at all. Feels like he definitely sees Garner sticking around. And Ruben de Souza says, Garner is coming into his prime. Vital to keep hold of him. I'm sure they will. Toffee Donut says, that's about Njai. We'll talk about him in a minute as well. Jez says, I really liked Garner last season. I felt he was playing well below his level, possibly because Gravel Voice had bashed the self-esteem out of him. This season he's been invaluable to us and stepped right up. Not having a position he can stake a claim must be quite unsettling these days for a player, as most clubs buy players for positions. I wonder if, from his point of view, he's happy being that utility player, or does he want a role of his own?
Well, he's probably not. He's probably not happy. He's probably not happy to move to right back. He probably wants to play midfield, but again, the challenge is to make yourself undroppable in that position. So there's not a chance on earth you're going to play right back, and the manager has to look at other places. But that's just not simply the case, and that's why I look at it and think, well, if he was an all-action centre midfielder and you will look at him and go, no, there's no chance we can move him, then maybe I'd have a little bit more like, maybe there's a chance for him to do this or do that. But I think a lot of us have wanted him to move to right back for some time. So what does that say? That says there are other players who can come in and do that job. So he's done well. He's moved up a level this season with his consistency, because he is playing week in and week out now. But until he becomes a midfielder where he's dominating games and controlling games of football, then for me he's doing all right and he's worthy of a contract.
Yeah, definitely. In the Blue says you've got his name wrong. It's Jimmy Gardner. Well, according to Moyes. Blue Jay says, I feel like Garner is becoming one of these utility players that can fill in where needed and deliver in whatever position is asked of him. I feel like the lad could deliver bins to the people of Bootle if he was asked to. So there you go. James has just said he's got bins, so doesn't need one. Benjamin James says, I think James Garner definitely deserves a new contract, but we shouldn't go overboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Harrison says, I find it funny, to be honest. The last few seasons, he's been average at best. This season, he's been our best player. If you told me last season we'd keep him, would you keep him? I'd have said no, get rid. But if he keeps it up, this season we'll 100% need him. Is he our new Iwobi? Plays shite and then gets good in his last seasons. He's been okay. Iwobi. Blue Jay also says, shout out to Dominic Soboslai, who experienced a big piece of humble pie shoved down his throat. Congrats to Ireland. I'm delighted for Seamus and Jake. Jay Radcliffe says, at this point in time, Garner is doing an important job for us. Going forward, we need better than him. I'm personally to wed myself to players. He's going to be good, though, no doubt. Okay. Paul Davies says, if Jordan Henderson can get picked for England, then James Garner can. Gary says it's always good to have talented players who can play a few different positions. Cooper's Tours says, in my opinion, Garner needs to do more in the big games. I remember last season few fans were slating him. So United match next Monday, he needs to be at his best. Yeah. John Van says, a new contract is fine, but if we get a fee for him going forward, I'll be happy to sell him. He reminds me of Alan Harper, who did a great job, but was never a starter.
He's the new Philip Neville.